to Chuck and Steve from That's Opportunity Knocking. Brilliant short comedy at our festival in Leeds. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks,
Lovely
Steve.
to meet you.
Great.
Well, who wants to start? Where are we going to go? Tell us about yourselves. Tell us about the film. I know we spoke before, but for the benefit of everyone watching, please.
Great.
Who
Well,
wants to-
That's Opportunity Knocking is a short comedy, 22 minutes long, about two burglars that try to burgle an apartment. And they sort of get stuck in there when two of the three roommates that live there come home. The two or three roommates start making out on the couch, and the burglars have to hide somewhere in the apartment. Not to be a spoiler, I won't tell you where.
It's kind of based on a true story, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
so, right.
So you can tell them the true story.
Sorry.
We were doing all of us doing a play together at the Hollywood Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
And one of the actors, Thomas Annawalt, told us a story about his apartment actually being burglarized in New York City. And he said that he and his roommate had come home and they were making out, and they noticed that the apartment was in a state of disarray. And there
You
was
couldn't
even,
write this, really,
There was
could
even
you,
a
right?
suitcase there,
No,
which was actually
it's
in
not.
our movie. And they were like, well, he must be doing, our crazy roommate must be doing some spring cleaning. So they proceeded to go to bed together, and then when they woke up the next morning, the place had been cleaned out. And they said they didn't know what had happened, so apparently the robbers had been there while they were making out. So we just turned it in. Chuck actually wrote and turned it into a comedy.
Because it almost sounds like a Paul Simon play.
Yes.
Something like that, you know.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, when I said to
Not Paul
Thomas,
Simon, Neil Simon. Not Paul
Neil
Simon. Neil
Yeah,
Simon. Sorry, Neil Simon.
yeah, absolutely. But,
Although Paul Simon does write some pretty good songs.
Oh, yeah,
you
not
know,
bad.
his story
Not bad.
songs, you know.
Yeah.
but the interesting thing was, Thomas, who was the director of that play that we were both in at the Hollywood Fringe Festival, I was the one that told us the story. I asked him if he would mind if I wrote a short film about it, if I put him in it. So he plays himself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In that role, and as the roommate that came home just like he was in real life. Yeah.
Because you couldn't, and I think we touched on something, you couldn't really stretch, maybe I'm saying the wrong thing, but you kind of got just the right time for this in terms of the running time. Because I guess you thought about doing a feature, but it kind of didn't work. Did we talk about this?
Yeah, it was never a feature. Whenever I come up with an idea, I wrote and directed this, but Steve and I have written scripts together. We've written several feature scripts.
Yeah.
And I love writing feature script. We actually sold one to Universal.
Nice.
But we, when we come up with an idea, just try to figure out what that idea is, and it tells you, I think, what it is. And if it's
Right.
a short film, it tells you it's a short film. If it's a feature film, it tells you it's a feature film. I think one of the big problems with comedies today is that they take, oftentimes, a skit from Saturday Night Live, not to criticize any of those films, but a lot of times it's just a skit, and they try to make a feature film out of it when it really belonged in the 22-minute range. And I think
Yeah.
this just told me that it was a 22-minute film. It's not a 10-minute film, and it's not a 2-hour film.
It's funny you should mention that, because I saw this film called Spy, one with Melissa McCarthy. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it. I heard it's good though.
It is ish, because you just said something that's exactly. I'm not the writer, but the problem I found was very funny, really well made, and probably shed a load of money thrown at it. Paul Feig, I think, is the director, the guy that she's worked with him before on Bridesmaids. But I got the feeling they were just stretching it too long. It's like, yeah, this is funny. She's out of her comfort zone, fish out of water. I get it, but 2 hours long, no.
That's just it.
See.
I think it happens all the time, And of course, I'm very critical because I grew up in what I think was one of the golden ages of comedy, right? So I remember being very young and going to the theater and watching Airplane.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a little after, I would cut it on television, but I got Blazing Saddles and
Yeah.
Monty Python and
Yeah, I
the
remember
Holy
those.
Grail.
Yeah.
These are, and then Chevy Chase's Vacation. Really, when you watch films like that, Ghostbusters, you watch a film of that caliber, and you really see what a 2-hour comedy can be,
Yeah.
hour and a half comedy can be.
Yeah.
So then you notice it when you have an experience like you had, where it's just the same joke sort of over and over. And
It's exactly what happened. And during that, because I remember that period really well, two films that really stood out for me were Roxanne and Planes, Trains and Automobiles.
oh,
Those are two of my favourite comedies
Great
ever.
Hysterical.
And
Great
Roxanne's
films.
never on TV. I haven't seen it for years. but it's a genius piece of work.
And Planes, Trains, Automobiles, same thing. I mean, just scene after scene after scene.
Yeah. And with that perfect ending. When you you said you sold a script to Universal, how do you feel about letting your work go for someone else? Are you okay with that?
Well, yes. I mean, you're very excited if somebody of that caliber wants what you do, but you also learn very quickly, as soon as you move to Los Angeles and meet the first 3 or 4 writers, everybody has sold a script to somebody that hasn't ever been made, and they have a sad feeling in their heart that it got optioned or it got purchased, and they're pretty sure it's just in a drawer somewhere and it's never going to get made. There's a sad feeling to that, but it's countered by a wonderful feeling that somebody thought your work was good enough. But secondly, there's always another script to write. I mean, we're constantly, every week we have another idea. There's more ideas than there's time to write scripts. So having one script to be out of play isn't really that big a deal.
And what's lovely is you didn't mention the money then, which is really but what's really nice about that is it tells me what I know about all the filmmakers and scriptwriters here, that actually, of course the money's important, but they always talk about the projects and how the importance of the project they're working on. Because obviously I know the money's important, we've all got to live, I get that. But it's so telling when the thing they really talk about is the story behind it, why they made it, why they decided to write it, film it, and so on and so forth. And that tells me an awful lot about a person, because you're not talking about that. Because I know it's important to you, but unless I'm wrong, I think what you really want is to see your projects made.
Well, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it's like it's like playing Monopoly. I don't know if they have Monopoly here, but Monopoly is a game where you have all these different properties.
Yeah.
And if you, in the game of Monopoly, if you sell one of your properties to another player, it's just a property. It doesn't really, unless you're holding those cards that match that property, you can't make a Monopoly, you can't put houses and stuff on it.
Can't get a set.
But that's how that script was. It was just like a one-off. Okay, that's done, and it's not. And when, like Chuck said, we have about at least 20 scripts between us, and so we just have so many Monopoly, playing cards that it's just a matter of like which work is going to, like, that's this movie, that's Opportunity Knocking, has been a big calling card.
Yeah.
Because it shows what Chuck can do as a writer and a director, what he does with the cast, which when you have just a script, you don't have that. And what's so great about film festivals like this one and all the independent film festivals is that people have actually finished a product that they're very passionate about, and they've taken time and their own finances mostly and have made indie films and are actually have the power and the strength to actually put it out in the world, because so many scripts, so many films even don't even get completed. And for lack of a better term, they just sit in a drawer. So this is just a great little calling card for us. So that's what's great about it.
And is it kind of like a proof of concept about, we already know that you wouldn't want to stretch this ending because it's the perfect time, but when you say the calling card is, I guess it's a show reel almost of what can be done, what you're capable of doing. I don't know if that's the right way to describe
exactly
it.
That's
what it is.
Yeah,
absolutely what it is.
Because like we've written at least 20 scripts between us, and some of them have been like our plays, our musical, and my comedy. Those have been produced out in the world, and that actually gives you more strength. But actually having a film is, I think, 10 times more powerful than having 10 screenplays sitting around that you're shopping around hoping someone's going to make it into a film.
And what are, or maybe it's all pluses, are there advantages and disadvantages to writing together, or is it all that away?
Well, there's disadvantages and advantages. I mean, it usually ends up being very organic, whether I write something with Steven or by myself or with someone else. ideas just sort of have a momentum of their own. It's sort of like a rock at the top of a hill, and it starts to roll. And sometimes you're just, oh, I got this idea, and I just want to pour it out. And other times, we'll come up with an idea together and sit down and in one case of a script we just wrote a scene here and a scene there and a scene here, and it was all just a complete disarray. And then we had to piece it all together, put down note cards and sort of like a puzzle, put it together. And it's probably the favorite script of ours that we've ever written.
This one?
The one that I'm
Oh, what you're
mentioning
doing
to you.
now?
But then there's another one. The most recent one we wrote together was a script called Clubbed, which was a script where we we've read most of the books on writing screenplays, and there was one book, a book by Vicky King, who Stephen knows, who wrote a book called How to Write a Screenplay in 21 Days. We just used her method and wrote that.
And it worked.
Screenplay.
And it
Well,
worked.
It did work. Yeah.
It did.
Because she tells you what to do on every single day of writing.
Oh, that's
So she
that's
really
intriguing.
breaks it down. She goes, this is what goes, loosely what goes on pages 1 through 10, and that's what you write that day. And then tomorrow you write pages 10 through 20, and she breaks it down to where it's a digestible sum to actually get a rough draft, to actually write those pages. And if you're not nitpicky and you do follow that method, by the end of 21 days you actually have a finished product, and then you go back and you can figure out what scenes stink and what scenes are really powerful and what characters aren't there that you need. So we use that method to create that screenplay, and so that's a different method that we've used as well, where we just plot it out and follow the guidelines.
Yeah.
And how can, this is a really tough question, but I don't know how else to put it, because I always think when you're writing a script, and I've said this before, comedy must be the most difficult thing. So the question is, how do you know something is funny? Which is almost impossible, I guess, to answer. I don't know how you do it. You're bouncing ideas off, because if you're writing a comedy, it's a comedy, so it needs to be funny. But where do you pick up the ideas from? Where does this all come from?
Well, Stephen and I are a couple.
Yeah.
And so the way I find humor is just sit down at dinner. I have never spent a day with him where he hasn't made me laugh.
So you come up like, hang on a minute, wait, I'll remember that.
All the time.
Right, excellent.
All the time, every time. Unless it's just, but sometimes it's just a random thing that you'll never use in a script, but you always write it down. And you have a huge, I won't say notebooks, a notepad on iPad and iPhone, and you just have ideas everywhere of something that Stephen has said or that you thought of that was funny. And then you try to piece that together with the comedy that comes from character, which is the Oscar Wilde version of comedy, and then you try to put them in a plot where funny things happen. Go ahead.
You might build the kernel of a story, and as you're writing through, you go, hang on a minute, we've got this line. Oh yeah, that'll fit really well. Remember what you said, Stephen said, and that would work really well there. Is that? I'm being a bit rough around the edges there.
Well, it is kind of, because I'm a character actor, and we discussed this in London.
Yeah.
I grew up with Carol Burnett, watching Carol Burnett, and Tracy Ullman, and their characters always, and not Saturday Night Live, by the way, their characters always came from. Their characters and their comedy, it all came from character. And if you have a strong character, and even if and I tend to write for people I know, so I hear their voice when I'm writing.
Oh right, okay.
And if I can
that helps.
associate,
Obviously,
yes,
obviously helps.
like if I'm writing like a bossy, guy that's kind of on the edge, I'd write that at Chuck. And I would actually.
I'm not sure what this tells me.
This is an interesting thing to learn in this interview.
You've only just found this out.
But I would actually hear his voice, and I would actually use some of the things that he said, maybe not verbatim, but I would actually put that.
Oh, you can imagine him saying it though.
Yeah, imagine the way he would say that.
That's
And I've done that with Charlotte, who's in ours. I've written characters that I think she would play. and I hear their voice. And so it's not that I just randomly take, and I think a lot of comedy writers think that they can just take a line and stick it in like a puzzle, and you can't. It has to come from character, and and it has to have their voice, the character's voice. And I'm really good at hearing what a character would say in a script. And I know what's right for one character and what's not right for a character. And I have a really good sense of comedic timing because I'm a comedian myself.
Yeah.
And so I know where, this is going to sound pompous and I apologize, I know where a joke needs to land.
No, that's the craft. That's the craft, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's your profession, so yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, you're in the wrong profession.
Yeah, and I know when something, I know how to set something up and how to pong it back. I know that. And Chuck is actually, he is a songwriter, and he's written some great comedic songs. And songwriting is just like script writing. You just tell a story, and it's a concise story. And he can do that in comedy and songs. In fact, he wrote one of the best songs I think ever written called "It's All About Me," which is about a girl who never gets cast in any shows, and she always makes the character that she's cast as is like nun number 7 in Sound of Music. Like, she makes the whole show about her. So she says, well, who's Maria? Who cares about Maria? It's all about me, you know?
It's kind of like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of music.
Yes.
That's exactly
Yes.
what it is.
So you're gonna cop that line now, aren't you?
It's going on my Facebook page tomorrow.
But I also listen to people, and I also steal from people too, because I'm a great listener. Like in the airport in Vienna, there was a woman sitting at the cafe, and she was telling her father, I assumed it was her father, she said, I'm going on a special diet. It's going to be fruit, water, and marijuana. Now
that's a good line.
that is a great line.
Yeah.
And
then
it's
the
a
next
great
thing-
and it's a great character, and I couldn't even. We were going to our
Quick, write
terminal,
that
and I was
down.
like, I gotta write that down. But I remember I have a very like a file cabinet in my head of great lines, and I just regurgitate them all the time. And Chuck, when he says I say things funny, I say things all over and over again. Like, I'm a repetitive type of comedian. Like, I'll say a line like that one about the weed and water. I mean,
That's great, isn't it?
8 characters could say that.
That's a really good one.
And then as we were walking away, we heard her say, I'm just not sure if I can give up drinking.
No.
Honest to God.
Yeah.
See, that's a brilliant ending.
What would be the kicker? Oh, there it is. Thanks.
Yeah.
we don't even need to write the kicker.
And she said it, and I came from a very dramatic family too. And I find in the middle of their crisis and drama, which was very real, I found it to be hysterical. The things that they would say in the heightened moments of drama was so much better than anything you could ever actually really write in fiction.
And who right now in comedy that you see in the modern age can deliver? Because I know a lot of it's about delivery. Who's got really good delivery? So when you look at something, you go, that guy, that girl, they can deliver a line.
Well, does it have to be in this modern day, or I mean,
In the last 5 or 10 years, because I'm
Tracy Ullman.
You see the bit.
I still think the best comic actor out there right
Bette Midler.
now is Eddie Murphy. I mean, I just think
Even now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of somebody that I.
Because Tracy Ullman, bizarrely, ironically, I think
Tracy Ullman's
is
good.
not big in the UK.
I
She
know
left
she's
the
not.
UK to become big. Mm-hmm. And then she came back to the BBC, which is okay. She's very good. She's very good, but it's not been. I don't know. No one's raving about it.
Yeah.
And yet in the US, she was massive.
Yeah, because
And
she's great.
I love Melissa McCarthy when she plays a very specific character, like in Bridesmaids. She was the funny. I was like, that's
She
the
stole
funniest-
it. She stole
She
it.
stole it.
You just want to honor that.
Yeah.
She's just perfect, and every moment she was so in the moment. I think it's Hollywood that takes on Melissa McCarthy and says, "Oh, this is what you did in this sitcom, and we're gonna just write a script for you." And I don't really want to criticize anything, but I will. We watched Identity Theft, and I just felt like it was
Identity theft.
Yeah, so
Oh, it was
I
okay.
felt robbed.
Jason, what's his name's in that, isn't it? Oh,
Bryan Cranston wasn't it?
I don't know. Isn't that she's in that, isn't she?
Yeah.
Isn't she? As the name suggests, she's still some bloke's identity.
Yeah.
But then he goes to track her down. Is that the film I'm thinking of?
Yeah,
She steals
that's
his
it.
identity.
Yeah.
So you can just see that they're trying to, like their voice. I hate criticizing writers that make a lot more money than me, but when you look at a film like that, you can tell that the voice that they got for that character was just Melissa McCarthy's voice. So that's
Right.
nothing new. We've heard Melissa McCarthy talk before, you know, and then Melissa McCarthy reads that script and she goes, "Oh, this is easy. This is me," and I just do it.
And I put on a
So-
crazy looking wig,
So
and that's
Yeah, well, she does that in Spy as well, actually.
Yeah.
for Melissa McCarthy to reach her greatness, the greatness that Lucille Ball achieved, the greatness that Carol Burnett or Gilda Radner or any of the great comic actresses, for her to reach that greatness on every film, it has to be a new, interesting, different character. Look at the types of character that Carol Burnett did within the course of her show. The humor was that one was so different from the last one, which was so different from the last one.
Because she could do it.
Oh, she just found it and she dropped
do it,
herself
yeah.
into it and committed to it. We don't just want to see her be the same person, because then we're seeing the same jokes.
Because
in
I
my
didn't know.
opinion.
No. Well, it's just lovely to hear, because I don't know. But it's nice to hear what you think works, you see. Because with Melissa McCarthy, I didn't know of her till Bridesmaids. She probably may have been massive in the US.
she is.
Oh.
But until I saw her, I didn't know her. I knew nothing about her until I saw her in Bridesmaids. I thought, who's this woman? She's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, before that she wasn't that big. She was
Right.
I mean,
That
she
was her
known
big
for
breakthrough.
That was a
television,
big right.
But for feature films, yeah. And you can't take your eyes off her in that.
No,
film.
no. And she is great in Spy, don't get me wrong. But as I alluded to earlier, I just felt, and we really laughed, and I was just like, yeah, it's really funny, but you're taking that joke and it's just too thin.
Another person I think is really good right now is, she's old, but she's current. Lily Tomlin. In the that Grace and Frankie, or Frankie and Grace,
Grace and Frankie.
Grace and Frankie. Lily Tomlin is magnificent in this show. I think the writing for her and Jane Fonda is brilliant.
So
But
I
then
haven't
as soon
seen
as
that.
we
Is
go
that
to the rest of
series?
the characters-
Yeah, it's a series on Netflix.
Netflix series.
Oh, it's a comedy series.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh no, I haven't caught up with that, and
As
it's
soon as-
good.
They play these two older
well, they're
dames who
great.
get ditched by their husbands who turn out to be gay. So it's and they have to end up living together, and it's Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin.
Are brilliant. But then you go to all the other characters, and it's
Bland.
just like we're sort of clocking in time. It almost becomes a drama.
You're right. Okay.
When you go to the Met, it almost becomes a drama. And then we go back to Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, and it's back to a comedy. And we're like, wow, this is funny because these two actresses, and in particular Lily Tomlin, is just brilliant. You can stare at her on the screen and just try to find her for one moment not being that character. You won't. She is that character at every moment, and everything she's doing is constantly funny. Whether it's picking up the glass, it's all part of her neurosis. That's brilliant comic acting.
But then you watch. I'll just interject here. You
No,
watch.
no.
You watch Jane Fonda, and go back to what I said earlier about this setup of a straight man. Lily Tomlin is such a solid straight man. I mean, I'm a straight comedian. She
yeah.
provides a lot of the straight humor, the setup humor, because if it was just two goofballs, it wouldn't balance out.
You said Lily Tomlin, but you meant Jane Fonda.
I meant Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
Jane Fonda sets up the comedy, the straight man part, and Lily Tomlin sets up, she's the foil, she's the goofball, and she's always in the moment. Both of them are always right in sync with each other in terms of comedy, and neither one of them, I feel, are in competition. So, and that's a great tennis match to watch.
And because she's been in the wilderness for some time. I mean, I knew Lily Thomas from years ago, but of course she hasn't been, I didn't know what she was up. And all of a sudden she's coming to brilliant. Says, Jane Fonda, I know, has done a little bit of acting.
Yeah, she gave it up for
gave it
many
up,
years
yeah.
to marry Ted Turner.
Yeah, that's right, and then came back, didn't
Yeah.
she?
After she divorced
was it the
him.
stepmother? The stepmother she came back, the one
yeah.
with J-Lo, wasn't it? I think, I can't remember.
A monster-in-law. Monster-in-law.
Monster-in-law. So she obviously got the bug back and she's carried on.
Yeah.
Fantastic actress, isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
Oscar-winning actress, can't be that bad, can she?
Oh yeah.
And it's, Yeah, I haven't caught up with that, so that I don't know if that's available in the UK, but it's obviously worth watching.
Oh yeah.
The other thing I laugh at is a show called Orange is the New Black.
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
Netflix
yeah,
show,
yeah.
which is a drama.
Yeah,
But
it's a dark comedy
but
to
it's,
that.
actually, it can't decide what it is, which I love. I love any show that defies convention. And the studio executives are sitting there from Warner Brothers and Paramount going, what? How can a show that's not a comedy or a drama be good? All our development people are trying to find dramas and comedies, and yeah, I'm sure they all passed on this show before Netflix said, thank you.
Yep.
And they start to do this show, and they
Massive
realize
hit.
that the audiences are way smarter than they think they are.
Yep.
Yeah.
We love a show that's half drama, half comedy. We embrace it, and the funny sections we laugh at. Taylor Schilling and everybody in that show. It's funny. They're good comic. They have a lot of good comic humor.
Maybe they're even more scared because things are changing so rapidly with video on demand and demands from digital platforms and the Netflix and Sky TV. Well, we get Sky in the UK and all the others, but there is so much choice. I suppose it's. I mean, I don't know, but for an exec, it must be a bloody nightmare to approve a show because you're suddenly thinking there's all these other things they can be doing, other avenues that people can explore. We've got to come up with a hit. And how tough must that be? And who knows what works? Because if I knew what worked, I'd become a producer or an exec.
Well, I think that movies have become more formula throughout the years, and I think that formula works better or well for action adventure, even for drama, certainly for comic book movies. Formulas are great.
Yeah.
Even family movies, formulas work great. I can watch a good family movie, whether it's what I see, Marley and Me. It's kind of a family movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'll cry in the right places. It's a formula, and it makes you cry in the right places. The only thing formula does not work for is comedy. Mm-hmm. Monty Python and the Holy Grail did not follow any formula, and it was hysterical. Blazing Saddles doesn't follow any formula, and it's hysterical.
Yeah.
So you have to blaze a new trail, no pun intended. Airplane. No, everybody passed on that script.
Did they really?
Oh, are you kidding?
Everyone said no.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
there's so many stories.
And what about like Mel
to blaze
Brooks,
new
History of the World Part 1? I mean, what I loved about the comedies in the 70s is they would just have these non sequitur jokes that they would just have these bits.
Yeah.
And they were true to the piece that they were writing, but they were just these comedic things that they weren't afraid to just toss in there. Like Airplane, like at one point has a
Call Me Shirley.
girl's boobs.
I said,
like,
don't call me Shirley, isn't that saying? Don't call me Shirley.
Don't call me Shirley,
Don't call
yeah.
me Shirley.
Surely you don't
Yeah.
think this plane is going down.
Don't, sure it is, and don't call me Shirley. I mean, and they weren't afraid to make fun of anything, and I think comedy has become very tame, and people are afraid to make fun of this thing or that thing, and it's very touchy now.
It
No
is,
formula.
yeah.
There's no, so they try to find a formula,
Yeah.
and that's how we get in identity theft. Not to criticize.
How
the
we get
writer,
that's
but
how
I
we
mean,
get to
that's-
Adam
it's-
Sandler,
It's probably not the.
Yeah, Adam
Yeah.
Sandler.
A lot of formulas.
A lot of
formula
formula.
after formula after formula. Even Will
Will Ferrell.
Ferrell.
I mean,
formula after
it's
formula.
funny you mentioned about Adam Sandler because my favourite, my favourite is his. Have you seen Punch Drunk Love? I don't know if that's his one.
I haven't.
No.
He's a straight man in that with a kind of comedy edge to it, I guess. But it's worth seeing. But I'm trying to think who directed it. The guy that done Boogie Nights.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I think it's him.
Yeah.
It's
I-
very
director, I can't
edge.
think of his name, but
No, it's very edge. It's very unusual for him, and actually, it's a really good performance. But I think it was. It wasn't popular, but I think that might be because people weren't expecting him to have that kind of role. But it's really worth catching if you can. And I saw it. Actually, I think I saw it last year in Nice. It was on a cable TV, and I remember thinking that is a really good film. It's really awful out of his comfort zone, but it was. But it just didn't. People didn't see it, but they should. It's just a really. He does. I don't actually warm to him that much, to be honest with you. I don't find him that funny. But in that, it's really good. It's
Yeah.
really, really good.
Good. Yeah, I love it. Anytime somebody tries something new, they can hit upon some wonderful new material. But every time they overdevelop things and try to can something that's worked before,
Yeah.
just the fact that we're trying to redo Ghostbusters. Why are we trying to redo Ghostbusters?
Yeah, but it's with women.
Paul Feig again, wasn't it? Same director.
it is.
Melissa McCarthy.
Melissa McCarthy was in it.
But it was panned, wasn't it?
Oh, it was panned and
panned.
it didn't do very well.
And how much did it cost them? A lot.
A
Well, they
bazillion
tried
dollars.
to redo Arthur. You don't have Dudley Moore
Or Liza
or
Minnelli.
Liza Minnelli.
Come on
But you're
now,
not gonna-
give her due.
And it didn't. I don't think the remake of Arthur went well, and they couldn't figure out why. Steve Martin is one of the most brilliant comedians of our time. Here's another person that I've always respected from his beginning of his career. They put him into the Pink Panther.
Oh dear, I know, it's dreadful.
And they think, oh, well, that's going to work because it worked with Peter Sellers. Well, Peter Sellers was probably the best comic actor of all time.
Love him.
In my view.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Love
Peter Sellers is
fantastic.
If I had to pick number one, he'd be number one. So no matter whether they took the exact script or whatever they do, as good as Steve Martin is, it was Peter Sellers
That made
movie.
it. It was Peter Sellers, yeah.
And you can't just redo it anymore. They can redo Psycho.
Yeah.
And
Which
it's
they
not-
did, shot for shot. It was terrible. Well, terrible because you just remakes exactly the same film.
Those things never work. They might sell tickets because there's a name of the movie that will drive the sales, but they'd be better off just re-releasing Peter Sellers in the Pink Panther and putting it into movie theaters and writing a new script for Steve Martin, who was brilliant.
Well, apparently they're redoing
LA
Dirty,
Story,
Dirty
you know.
Rotten Scoundrels.
Apparently they're
No.
redoing Dirty
Yeah.
Dancing too.
Yeah.
Are they?
What is the point?
I don't know.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I think it's a really funny film. And Steve Martin and Michael Caine are excellent in that.
They think we are, as an audience member,
Dirty Dancing. Serious, I know. Why would you do that?
they think they need a word, a brand. They think whoever's trying to sell films in this day and age, and I'll say this on the camera, whoever is running these studios has got it wrong. They've got it wrong because they're trying to sell studios, they're trying to sell movies the same way you sell hamburgers, the same way you sell Coke, the same way you sell cars. Those items are all the same. Movies are different.
Yeah.
They're just different.
Yeah.
They have lives of their comedy movies are different. They have lives of their own, and there is artistry involved, and you can't just put it in the new Coke Classic bottle. It's not going to sell.
Well, they're also overdeveloped too. I think, they get like identity theft might have been I'm assuming a lot, might have been an interesting premise and an interesting script. But I'm sure that it got developed by a lot of people, like Melissa McCarthy's team and this person's team. And so you have all these middlemen who are kind of corporate America type of people working on the script and trying to fix it and make it this and that and formulaic, as Chuck said, that the comedy gets really watered down and the characters never really come to fruition. It's not a character-driven comedy anymore.
No.
It's just, well, does this work with this formula that we got? And is this the is this the Coke or a hamburger? What is this that we're trying to put out into the market?
But it seems fairly obvious to me. If you're sitting in a boardroom, a load of student execs, and saying, you know what, we're running. Has anyone got any good ideas? I know. Let's remake Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Let's remake. Yeah.
Dirty Dancing.
Who
Dirty
approves
Dancing.
that? Who doesn't go? Hang on a minute. That's one of the most perfect. I mean, I've seen Dirty Dancing. It doesn't float my boat, but I can see why people love it. It's a really brilliantly made film.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
And Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Dirty Dancing. Who's going to put a hand up and go, you know what? Great idea. That film was perfect. How can we top a perfect film? Who does that?
Well, people don't want to say, oh, that's a
Really bad idea.
bad idea. People are like, okay, we'll do that, sure. Let's see how we can, let's see if we can get this person attached and this person attached. And, and stars, they just want the dollars. They
Well,
just
Steve
want
Martin's
money.
great actor, fantastic comic actor.
Yeah.
And
LA
he's done.
Story.
He
could get any
Pink Panthers. Why did you do it, Steve? Show me the money, I guess.
You got to pay
Allegedly.
got to pay that visa.
Got it, yeah.
Why is Bette Midler doing Hello Dolly on Broadway? You think it's because
Is she doing? Is she doing?
Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, I mean she's doing that because
Although I suppose she's brilliant.
I
She's
bet
brilliant.
she is.
And I respect that
Yeah.
because that's hard work.
That is hard
That's
work.
And
she's
is
not
Hello
doing-
Dolly.
she's not- Bette Midler's not doing that for the money because you can't work any harder than do a show on Broadway.
No,
And
Exactly.
at her age, she's making
Yeah.
every dime of that money.
Yeah. She is 70, but you know,
Is she 70?
she's 70. To do Hello Dolly,
Ooh, that's a
8
tough
shows a
one.
week? That's tough work.
that is tough work.
8 shows.
8 shows.
And then I know, because I know people in the industry, one is grueling.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And she's the lead too. It's not like she just shows up and.
And how long would
acting.
you be signed up to do that? Not a year. It wouldn't be a year, would it?
Well, I think it's six months for all 8 shows a week for 6 months, and then once the Tonys are over, and if she wins a Tony, she'll let other people fill in the roles on certain days. But she's still going to do it, so she's not doing it for like a limited
No.
3-month run. She's doing it.
And that'd be a sellout, wouldn't it? Bound
Oh
to
yeah,
be.
Oh,
yeah. You can't get a ticket.
$800 a seat. But I think that's good for Broadway. I really do. Broadway has gotten so many actors that make their start in Broadway, and then they come to Hollywood and they make it big on Hollywood and, in Hollywood in films.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
won't go back to Broadway. It's like a step back down. The really good ones, good actors that believe in acting, they will go back and they'll do a role. But a lot of times it's the sitcoms actors from the 70s that go, oh, I'm not getting any roles anymore. I better go over to Broadway. And then you have the, not to make fun, but you'll be driving down. I remember, I won't. You see the old names that you're like, oh, who is that? Oh, wasn't she this in that series in the 70s? And their name is on a Broadway show. And that to me, that makes Broadway look bad. See a name like Bette Midler.
Yeah, still that is a big no.
That shows that, okay, Broadway's still alive and well. That's good.
Yeah, to get Bette Midler, that's a big thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Do you know what, guys?
What?
I think we're going to have to wrap it up, haven't we? How
We
long have we
do?
been running?
What?
36 minutes.
Oh my God!
Sorry, guys.
You just drew it out of us.
What can I say?
You're amazing. That's all I want in the whole wide world, is to live like those guys in the gangster movies.
So where's the suitcase?
That's my suitcase. I put the blanket over it to keep it warm. What do you say we take this into your bedroom?
Are you two robbing us?
The only thing more awkward than the wrong people having sex is the right people not having sex.
You know what your problem is? You're not intimidating.
How about now?
Not at all. I'm not in the least.
My psychic told me that I
How
am
can you go to
only-
bed with that unstable little twerp?
So you're Rob. I'm Wally. What's your name?
I don't have a name. I'm your worst nightmare.
That's from a movie.
I told him he doesn't got it.
Damn it!
I'll rip off rich people with you, 'cause I got nothing else to do. I'll rip off rich people with you, and let's get ice cream too.